Raj?
Speaking.
Set? Maureen? Pam? We're all good? Okay. Welcome to the November 7th, 2019 City of Manistee Planning Commission. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski.
Here.
Commissioner Szymanski. Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Weiner.
Here.
Commissioner McBride.
Here.
Commissioner Yoder.
Here.
Chair Whitliff.
Here, thank you. Approval of agenda. At this time, the Planning Commission can take action to approve the November 7th, 2019 agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Shelley. Discussion? None. Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner.
Yes.
Commissioner McBride.
Yes.
Commissioner Yoder.
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes, thank you. Approval of minutes. At this time, the Planning Commission can take action to approve the October 3rd, 2019 meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the 3rd of October meeting.
Motion by Marlene, second by Roger. Any discussion? None. Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner.
Yes.
Commissioner McBride.
Yes.
Commissioner Yoder.
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes, thank you. Public hearing. There's a public hearing for a special use permit pertaining to a marijuana grow facility. The team will have 15 to 20 minutes to present and with questions afterwards. The public hearing is now open. Presenter would please come to the podium. Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Dave Sharon. I am an attorney here on behalf of the applicant. My address is 5020 East Beltline, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 49525. On the screen behind you is a presentation we've created in support of the special use permit. We're dealing with the property at 254 River Street. It's the location of the Ironworks building. Building is located on River Street. Cross Street is directly adjacent to it. There are actually two building structures that are connected. One is approximately a 30,000 square foot building, and then there's an approximately 35,000 square foot building next to it. Kyle?
There's a remote, there's a clicker at the top.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Press the down arrow.
All right, thank you.
That should work.
We are proposing to use the rear of the building principally for the grow facility. There are two areas in the front building that are shaded. It's anticipated that they could be used as temporary grow facilities as we transition into the back facility. The square footage of the different areas, the yellow, the rear building, and the areas of the front building are depicted on the screen. Basically, the total building area is around 76,000 square feet, which under your ordinance caps us at a ratio of 49%, which would be 37,340 square feet. We would propose to use an area that would never exceed that amount in the two building areas. Whoops. We're proposing some parking and fencing in connection with the proposed site. They're depicted on a site plan. The parking and the fencing comply with your ordinance. The long-term goal for the front building is not marijuana use or marijuana growing facility. It's for some type of mixed-use residential facility. This is the tentative plan for the first floor of the existing Ironworks building. It's a plan that calls for the continuation of the restaurant use, some additional commercial uses, and residential uses in the old structure. It has a second floor, additional space. We had talked to the city representatives, and they told us about the great need for workforce housing in the downtown area. So this is one of the buildings that we're proposing to put workforce housing. And it has a third floor, and even a small fourth floor may be possible on this facility. We are available to answer any questions now, and we'll certainly answer questions later during our time.
Hold that video
in the
right
commission.
there. You had any questions, you say?
If you have any questions now, but we'll entertain them also later when the public hearing's not going on. It's up.
Oh, Mark?
Yeah, you can ask a question,
Oh.
go ahead.
No, is that, all right, the yellow is where you plan on growing?
Yes,
All right, and the brown is,
it's a temporary, it may be a temporary growing space until the yellow becomes available. The yellow is leased right now.
what?
The yellow, the back building is currently leased.
Leased, okay.
Okay. So
And
we
the
anticipate.
green,
And the green is a second floor in the front building. And that's another possible temporary space that we would propose to use until the rear part is available.
How long is the lease on the yellow shaded?
It goes into early next year. And then it's terminable on 60 days' notice. So,
So does it terminate in like the first quarter, or?
yeah, yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
What's the plan for the ventilation of the facility? Has that,
Well, once, tonight is all about, is this the location that you want to have a grow facility in the city? And once we clear tonight's hurdle, we have to come back and apply for a license from the city. And in that licensing process, we have to give you the design plans for the buildings, and they will have full-blown plans for the ventilation. And as you may know, under the licensing rules that govern the state, and your ordinance mimics them, there are detailed calculations for the carbon scrubbers that go in there and take care of the ventilation. All the rooms are gonna have to be identified and diagrammed, and a narrative is going to be presented to you as part of that license application that identifies uses, and there's a whole bunch of fire and safety issues that have to be addressed. But that's the next step. We haven't gone to that expense because first we need you to say, this is the corner we want to allow this use. We're going to grant a special use for.
and you have the state license also.
Right, we have to, yeah, and there's interaction between your community and the state about all these subject areas. Once they get more fine-tuned,
Right.
once we clear tonight's hurdle.
Right.
How many jobs are you anticipating that this will create?
The current estimate is 30 to 40 jobs.
30 to 40 jobs. We got marijuana facilities going along the highway that are doing like 8 to 10. We got 6 of those, so I multiplied that, and you're looking at 30 and 40. You people are gonna be shipping them in. We don't have the people here to fill the jobs. But don't you have to be trained to some extent also?
There's training it's mandated by the state. Yes.
And that's gotta be certified by, yeah. Good luck,
Yeah,
good luck.
well, that's a good problem for you guys.
Yeah, it is. Oh, not only that, but other companies too, I don't know.
Yes.
The housing is,
Well, hopefully we can house some of your friends downtown.
yeah, oh, that's a good idea. You'll have it all. I mean, you'll have the restaurant, you'll have, the retail on the bottom floor, if so desired, and the people will be living upstairs. They'll never have to leave.
Sure.
Then they'll be working at the marijuana plants, hell.
Like, with the restaurant staying in other, and then you're talking about housing and that,
Yeah.
how secure can you make that grow facility with all this other activity going on in the same building?
You're gonna see, when we get to the next step, we're gonna have to present you a security plan for that facility, in addition to the fire safety plan and the HVAC plan, and where the building walls are gonna go and all that. But yeah, the laws are pretty strict. I mean, the regulations dealing with these grow facilities are like, they're almost 3/4 of an inch thick. The state requires cameras everywhere, and, elaborate security devices installed on these types of facilities. So there's no choice about it. We have to create walls of a certain dimension,
Right.
to keep people out and security features. So,
Why that area? Why don't you go into the industrial park where it's designated for that type of facility?
well, this is designated for this type of facility under your zoning ordinance. We're in the Peninsula District,
Yeah.
and we're proposing a mixed-use type of development, and that's the criteria for a grow facility under your ordinance, so we fit that. But, you may allow it elsewhere, it's just, right now, you gotta have the combination of factors, and
Right.
we're in the right place.
Back to the number of employees, will those be 30 to 40 full-time?
Yes.
And what kind of salary wage are we talking?
Well, there'll be, whatever, it's gonna be market-driven, so if your local labor pool is as tight as you say it is, it'll be a couple bucks above whatever the average hourly rate is for those who assist in the day-to-day growing part, and then the supervisory people and the accounting people, will be at a higher rate.
I understand you're the attorney for the,
Yes, Dave Sharon.
so has your client done this before anywhere?
This is the first grow facility. The same client has dispensaries
Oh,
in the state.
okay.
Where are they located?
They're in the Grant, Michigan area, Newaygo County.
Okay.
And how many dispensaries?
2.
I'm curious, you said 30 employees, but in the paperwork it says only 10.
Yeah.
Where's the extra 20 going to be?
That's a typo then.
Okay. 'Cause
I'm
it's
sorry.
it says 10 employees with 7 being there at any one time.
Oh.
So I was just curious where the extra 20 was.
Yeah, if, in the beginning stage, they'll be closer to 10 when we're in the smaller areas in that front building. Once we move into the back building, there you go. Once you move into the yellow building, that's when the 30 to 40 range will kick in.
30,000 square feet in the yellow building. How many do you anticipate for plants? Do you know? How many plants in that you could get there?
It's,
Well, you don't have to,
Yeah.
but it's, I mean, I've seen it on TV in these grow facilities and it's humongous. I mean, I don't know if they're levels, you're gonna have levels or just one floor?
the current thinking is that they're sort of on sloped. They sort of go vertically, the way they get laid out. But just a rough estimate in the rear building would be 9,000 to 12,000 plants, depending on how they get laid out.
You know, like, now, is this the same outfit that applied, what was it, Kyle, a couple years, or you weren't here, right? Rob, a couple years ago?
Preliminary site plans have been submitted, yes, previously that did not meet all of the requirements required by a special use permit process for the Peninsula District.
Right.
And so those were returned with comments.
To this group, though?
Yes,
Oh, so they're familiar with it,
yes.
somewhat. Oh,
Yep.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
now you cleaned up your act, right?
Yeah, we did. And,
Okay. Well,
the surveyors and engineers were just too darn busy to turn around our stuff this summer. So.
yeah, I remember back in it, yeah, okay, all right. So, yeah, you're pretty much scored away. I'm good, Mark. Thank you.
All right.
Do you have any idea what time frame you're looking at to move into the yellow shaded?
We'd like to do it 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Well, that would be ideal. We don't know how long your next part of the process is gonna take.
Right.
Because I don't think you guys have ever done it before. The granting a license for somebody to grow. That'll be the next step. And so we gotta deal with the fact that all of the design professionals are swamped beyond belief right now.
Yeah,
And so we gotta go to them, get these plans drawn. You guys have to approve them, and then Lansing has to approve them. And they're backed up too. So, that's sort of the practical.
yeah.
We'd love to be in business right now, but
Oh, yeah, now's
we
the time.
can't. Yeah, there's a shortage of this product all over the state.
Yeah.
But
One other question. Now, as I understand it from this picture here, we're talking about the parcel, the complete parcel, right?
Yeah.
Not just, I mean, the building is on this parcel.
Correct.
But it's, all right, well, we were talking back in that time as leeway for a possible river walk along the river there,
oh yeah,
because we were planning on continuing it
Yes.
to the lake.
Yep.
Are they still viable with that understanding?
We're gonna come back to you with proposals for residential and retail uses for the site.
Yes.
But yes, Riverwalk is one of the things we've heard continuously about.
Yeah.
We've talked to consumers, they've got a piece next to us.
Right.
Seem to be interested in the same concept.
Right. But you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
It's beautiful down there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to take it one step, yeah, Singh did a jobby on us when he sold to consumers, but, yeah, as long as you understand. Cause what are you gonna use the back part of the riverfront for? Probably condos, yeah.
It's a logical site for, condos could go back there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but,
Right now, you're focused on the building.
yeah, right now, this is the immediate issue, and
Right.
we clear this hurdle, and this, quite frankly, this part will pay for everything else
Yeah,
that you want on the site.
Jesus, 9,000 plants.
Yeah, it's you know as well as I how unique this property is, so we'll go slowly, do it right.
Yeah, appreciate you coming back. Well, you've been here, so you corrected whatever they sent you, so I'm assuming you know what you're up against. Yeah, okay, Marco, I'm
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thank you.
I know I'm probably putting the cart before the horse here, but when another grow facility came before us, there, in the grow facility itself, there's different levels of security. As the seeds come in and the plants are taken out and then it's dried, I take? And there's different levels of security?
Yes,
Okay, so the yellow portion of this will be segmented off? Is that what's gonna happen?
yes. Actually, any part that's used as a grow facility is gonna be segmented off. And when we get to the next step, which is asking you for the grow license, you're gonna see our security plan in writing for you to approve.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And it'll show all the steps, and it'll show the cameras and everything else that
Okay.
go into the site.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sure.
Question, Mark.
Go ahead, Roger.
Now, I heard from another applicant, you're gonna be growing 9,000 plants, you're gonna be shipping around the state. You think you could throw the Manistee logo in there someplace?
Oh, I think that'd be the natural location for.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, make a name for us anyhow. But, I mean, you're gonna be growing it here, right?
Yes,
You're gonna be shipping it all around, right?
that's true.
Hopefully, it might be across state lines someday, so.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, at least you could throw the Manistee, Great Lakes or something, on a seal or something. It's a thought. All right, Mark. Sorry.
Gosh, I don't know. This may have been in because. No, I got
What was it?
nothing. Any other questions?
No, I'm good, son. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, city staff?
The planning department recommends that this be tabled until the next meeting on December 5th regarding the granting or denying of the special use permit. Due to the complexity of this plan, as well as keeping the same consistency with all other marijuana-related applications, the results of this meeting are recommended to be made at the next planning commission meeting on December 5th.
You want a straw poll on that, or do we take a vote?
You could take a conceptual idea, that way approve it, I mean, rather than approve it,
Straw poll.
Conceptually speaking, you know what I mean?
What are the feelings of the
Yeah, I would say yes.
commission?
I approve, I would.
Okay, Bob? Yep. Okay,
I mean, to give the guys some direction,
all right, and we will table it until December 5th. Thank you.
Could you close your public hearing before you table it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, I'm sorry. Public hearing? Anybody in the audience would like to speak on this? Please approach the podium. You have up to 5 minutes. Name and address, please. None? Public hearing's closed.
That's all it works.
Now we will proceed on tabling until December 5th.
Right.
Okay? Thank you. Public comment on agenda-related items. I want to read something here. All comments and handouts from the speaker at the podium will go through the chair. If there's any, also there will not be any interaction between the podium and the audience. These rules cannot be followed. The chair can terminate this portion of the meeting. I also want to add something. during discussion by the PC, no comments will be allowed from the audience. If it happens, I will ask that person to kindly refrain. If you don't, well, I don't want to take the next step. So, thank you. So, any comments on the agenda? None? Okay. New business, 254 River Street, marijuana grow facility.
There were 3 corresponding letters from local residents I'd like to read into
Okay.
the record. So this one is from October 25th, 2019. Dear Mr. Story, thank you for sending me this letter regarding special use permit for marijuana. My name is John Raz, and as of now, I own 3 rental properties in the city of Manistee, 58 Lake Street, 74 Hancock, and 82 Greenbush. I'm 100% for this marijuana business. This will bring many needed jobs for your community and make good use of the old Ironworks building at the same time. I have no personal interest with anyone involved, but I'm for it. Thank you, John Raz. This one is dated October 30th, 2019. To whom it may concern, I'm writing as the owner of a half a dozen properties with a rough market value of $750,000 within a city block of the proposed special use permit locale. I will be unable to attend this meeting on 7 November because I have a medical procedure the next day. My properties are Milwaukee House, vacant parking lot, Milwaukee House, 42 Lake Street, 56 Lake Street, 11 Mason Street, vacant parcel at 270 River Street, and soon to be vacant parcel at 268 River Street. I am in support of the improvement of the tax base of the community and economic development and growth in this area. I'm in general support of the nature of this business if properly conducted. My concern is with any potential impact the operation may have on surrounding properties in the form of the following. Number 1, odor. Grow facilities are known to emit/discharge general airflow to the exterior. This often carries an unsatisfactory, dank, skunky smell that can negatively impact surrounding properties. What is being required to properly manage this facet of the operation? If it is represented that there is no odor, that's just not true. It's quite pungent at times and would not be an asset to the neighborhood if left unchecked. Having $1 million invested in this neighborhood, it's a very serious concern, with 2 links to different odor complaints from different legal pot areas around the country. Number 2, noise and light. This facility is assumed to be a 24-hour operation. Our future operations across the street will include lodging. We are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in upgrades to these properties. All we're asking for is some assurance that guests will be able to get a comfortable night's sleep without any adverse impacts from this operation. If so, we are in support. Lastly, titled November 1st, 2019, Dear Kyle and Manistee Planning Department, thank you for the meeting regarding the proposed marijuana special use permit of the growing business. We are aware of the hours of time that have been involved to develop this project, and it is appreciated. Our residence is at 28 Lake Street, which is included in the 300-foot setback from the proposed marijuana growing facility. We are owners of the home, which was previously owned by our father. We have additional address in Aspen, Colorado, where marijuana is legal and actively growing in the area. The ordinance adopted by Manistee in January 2018 appeared to have been thoroughly thought through and have addressed many issues. We do have a few questions to address regarding the parcel in question. Number 1, regarding the grow lights, most greenhouses have amber automated lights at night. This lighting is not offensive to those in the area. Number 2, air quality. Air must be filtered, scrubbed when exhausted from the growing facility. An engineer designs this system and is often activated charcoal, which is used. Number 3, pesticides need to be EPA approved. Number 4, tax money. Information regarding how the tax money will be distributed is definitely needed. We thank you for the opportunity to share some of our concerns. We feel very positive about the development and hope that this venture will impact and benefit our community. Sincerely yours, Thomas and Ellen Marshall. That's all the correspondence to read into record regarding this special use permit hearing.
Kyle, the second letter that you read, who was that from?
Marty Spalding.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, since it's tabled, we just move along? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second is 537 Cypress Street, special use permit, site plan size requirements.
Let me pull the documents up before we get into it.
Hello, I'm Brian Cruz, 1236 Red Apple Road. I own property, a home on 8th Street where I grew up. And my family owns a commercial building on 537 Cypress, which my grandpa built 68 years ago, Joe Adamczyk. There were 9 businesses there since '52. 3 butcher shop, 3 grocery stores, Little Red Shoe House, 3 eyeglass places, a rent-to-own, and lastly, Little Caesars for the last 10 years.
Oh, you mean a grocery store?
Yeah, my grandpa owned a Adamczyk Giant Supermarket, Door Johnson's, IGA, Classical IGA, New Vision,
Yeah.
Little Red Shoe House, rent-to-own, they all were there.
Okay.
Now, Little Caesars has since moved less than a year ago. There's been about 7 businesses wanted to come in there. I found out about 3 weeks ago, a business called me, has 30-plus businesses throughout Michigan. That's a little low, actually. He called me yesterday. He's got over 100 in Michigan. He bypassed Manistee after we have a contract with him for that building because of the costly permits. First of all, you need a site plan. We've owned the building 68 years. Now we need a site plan. Nordland wants $3,500. The cheapest one I found is Spicer at $1,200. Spicer said he don't know why you need a site plan, but you'll have a nice picture and a drawing when we get done for $1,200. So that's a costly or a financial hurdle that either my family or a business has to overcome to come into town. Secondly, a special use permit now. Special use for what? It's been business, commercial business for 68 years. Now a special use is needed because it's a residential area. There's 6 blocks there that are residential on all the US 31 corridor. There's 9 businesses or storefronts in that 6 blocks. Why isn't that a C2 neighborhood commercial where it is at A&W and that comes C2 commercial? And then you got a C1 at just the other side of 9th Street, the Forest Clinic, which is zone commercial. But those 6 blocks aren't, and there's 9, there might even be 11 businesses in there. Definitely 9. You know, from Hibbs Chiropractic, the Donnie Nemec sporting goods store, there's a church in there, and Forest Clinic, and 2 dental places for sure. And a hair place, Jerry's Hair.
Yeah.
So there's another $750 cost.
Yeah.
And then a special use, then you have to go out, put it out to the neighborhood. Why do you want a convenience store there? You know, you gotta wait for all these, you know, people or whatever. Why is that? After 68 years of having a business in there, businesses,
You don't know what you're putting in.
Isn't that?
why?
Okay.
So I've come to this gentleman that refuses to pay that kind of money. Well, it's either he refuses or I pick up the tab, which, you know, with insurance and that, I already got $7 grand a year in there.
Sure.
And you know the cost of lease in this town.
Yeah.
You know, if I break even a year, I guess it's good to have a building occupied than not. I counted yesterday, there's 86 in Manistee, 87 in my building, empty since I was a kid. Commercial or a storefront of some sort that was occupied when I was a kid, that are not now.
Yeah.
So we could have another empty building. I mean, putting these costs, financial burden, another hurdle on these people, or we could try to get these things leased out. I read when Mark, you were running, you wanted to get rid of some of these old buildings. And well, there's a reason why there's old buildings not being open, the way I see it. Costly. So my suggestions or recommendations or questions as to why do we need the site permit? That in a case like mine, the building's been there 68 years, you can't go up, down, or out. It's fixed, if you know where 6 and Cypress is.
Yeah.
There's no new construction, hasn't been in years. What would you need a costly site permit for?
When
Se-
was it the last time?
Secondly is the zoning permit. Why isn't that changed to a neighborhood commercial? There's 9 businesses flat out for sure 9 businesses in 6 blocks is the only section of US 31 that isn't a commercial district, which costs more money for a special use permit. So that's my argument, and I hope things change here. This gentleman went to Ludington. It costs a max of $25 sign permit to get in his building, lease. He's got over 100 of these stores. Just one guy. The other one was a Lavender Flower Shop who went in the city where she didn't have to pay it at, so. And then there's 3 other ones that are looking. But that's my complaint, and I hope something changes here shortly. In the meantime, I paid the $1,200 to Spicer, and, you know, going on from there, but hopefully something changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So can I ask him a question?
Yep, go ahead.
If you don't mind, sir, then your biggest complaint is the cost of selling it?
The cost of the permits to get in the building.
So you're from the other guy?
Yeah. Any business, there has to be a site plan.
Yeah.
Okay, that's either gonna cost me or it's gonna cost that guy coming in. He won't pay it. So it's gonna cost me.
You pay it and bump the price up $1,200.
Yeah, you think he's gonna pay it? You know what the leases are in Manistee.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, that's how it goes. That's like we go shopping for a car, you know? I mean, any place, they pass it on.
Yep.
Okay, so anyhow, that was
Like
one.
my dad said, push in one hand and no crap in the other and see what you get more of, you know?
Yeah, so the site plan you don't like, what else is it?
Site plan and special use permit. For that area, it's residential. There's 9 businesses in a 6-block section that's residential. It should be zoned neighborhood commercial, like A&W, West Shore Bank. You got houses in between down there. You got
Yeah.
neighborhoods all around.
Yeah.
Then you got regional commercial at Forest Clinic, on the other side of Forest Clinic. You got homes all the way through there up to Family Fair. Or on the other side.
What's Donnie's then zoned at? Is that commercial?
Same as what I
Same
am,
as-
residential. Them 6 blocks in there, the church, Hibza, Donnie's, the hair place,
Okay.
the 3 Forest Clinic, and the 2 dental shops, or dental,
Huh.
high-tech dental and the other one.
Oh, that is something to take a look at. I don't understand why we did that.
Well, it's just another costly permit. And then you gotta go through the rigmarole of getting, what, you gotta send it to the neighbors and
Yeah, well, you gotta know that,
blessing, and
neighbors gotta know what you're gonna put in the store.
why after 68 years do we need it now? You
Well,
didn't
it's
need
always
it.
been that way.
No way. No way. Little Caesars didn't need it, it's not on record.
Well, it's just, look, the man read the letters that we just sent to the people around Ironworks.
Okay.
I mean, the people around the area should know what's going into a building, I would think. And they have a right to, you know, say their
Go ahead,
So every commercial place in the city of Manistee, you have to do that?
Marlene. Shelley's got a question.
Well, you're trying to put me on a spot. I'm saying we're taking it one day at a time.
Well, I'm saying that it never used to be like that, because I've been around for my 59 years here. Since my grandpa opened it, they didn't need no special use permit.
I went there.
And I know you did. You grew up on Davis.
Yeah.
No.
Slaughterhouse and all. Yeah.
Little Caesars didn't need a permit, they just moved out. They were there 10 years. They were the last ones in there.
Yeah,
They
I
didn't need no special use permit. So this must have just came on,
I don't know.
2017 household or something, or maybe.
I don't understand that. Yeah, makes. something to
Shelley
look
has a
at.
question.
I'm actually confused myself why that would require
Yeah.
a special use
Okay,
permit. Can you
so
help
let me, okay, I don't know the back history on when the zoning was adjusted here in the city of Manistee. That section of US 31 is zoned R2, residential, medium density. US 31 is also considered a key street segment, as there are several key street segments to residential areas within the city of Manistee. The key street segment allowances in the zoning ordinance outline specific special uses that can be placed within the residential area along those key street segments. Those special uses basically dictate that a site plan is turned over to staff and the planning commission for review with the special use permit process, just like any other special use permit process. You have the authority to waive certain aspects of a special use permit process. This could include the waiving of a site plan.
Okay.
Although I would personally, as staff, recommend against a rezoning of these properties to neighborhood commercial. there was a reason that you guys zone this R2. When you zone residential areas back to commercial, you not only, you put those houses in jeopardy of turning over to commercial, as well as contributing to continual sprawl along the US 31 corridor, which we know what that looks like, particularly if you move out of the city limits into the townships. It's something that we're trying to combat at the county level, all the way up the 31 corridor. So you do have some allowances, and if you want to where's it at?
Yeah.
It says here under section 1801, item 5, under data required, the zoning administrator may, with the approval of the planning commission, waive the submission of materials outlined in this section if such materials are determined to be not applicable to the proposed special use or relevant to the consideration of the planning commission. Now, I would take that to mean that if you feel that you don't need a site plan to be able to determine the location of parking, signage, entrances, access to US 31. So just to be clear, if you waive that right, you waive the right of the special use permit and placing conditions because you're not going to have a site plan to review. Okay?
May I say something about that property? When it was Little Caesars, they only had a portion of that whole building.
They leased the whole building, but they only used a
They
portion.
did? Okay, because I was going to mention parking, the whole parking lot was used by them, and I never really understood that. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we do a site plan, is so people understand what the parameters are of that business.
I don't know what you're gonna
It's
change with a
determined,
site plan.
there's specific requirements in the ordinance in terms of parking spaces, handicap spaces, landscaping is at your discretion, access to a site. I won't say it's impossible, but it'd be difficult to dictate that in a special use permit without a site plan.
Right.
Now, you could waive the requirement of a professionally engineered site plan, meaning that this gentleman could draw something himself at no fee except for the time that it takes him to put it on paper, and waive the requirement of a professional engineer or surveyor doing it, which would eliminate that cost. But I believe that there'd be a consensus amongst staff that we do not eliminate the special use permit for the site. And Kyle and I, and Mike and I have had discussion regarding this site and offering flexibility to the applicant of basically doing a blanket special use permit that outlines a whole range of special uses that could go into the site, instead of him specifically saying it's going to be retail, or it's going to be medical office,
And
or
this is a one-time expense too for the whole building, for the remainder of, however long it's being leased for. So if there's 3 tenants and three lessees, the one special use permit and one site plan would pertain to all of them because it's pertaining to the parcel and the building specifically.
So if Mr. Cruz sells that building in the future, that will go with it.
it goes with the property.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
site plan, yeah.
Yep.
Which would incorporate many different uses, which would be higher value, theoretically.
So we could blanket the uses and put them all in the special use permit, so then he has a range of options to offer to whoever wants to lease a space. They could do office there, they could do retail there, they could do a restaurant there. they
Further
could
though,
do-
also the utilities for different businesses with aging infrastructure, it's helpful to see where those are in the sense of electric and underground water and things like that. Surely it might not have changed in 60 years, but the infrastructure may have changed with the city's infrastructure for sewer and things and stormwater. So it's something to consider very highly, that site plans are very useful with seeing special use permits. It's an R2 district, it's
It should be in here is, you've got the historical uses of that building. Put that as part of the precedence of that building being commercial
Should be
in there.
grandfathered in, no site plan for that.
Yeah,
It's been there
just
68 years. The city, according to Spicer, the engineer for the city, they know what's there. They told me. They know everything there, every building in the city. It's on record somewhere. And to have to pay that, which I already paid, so waive anything you want to waive to. I already paid it because he needed that to get the special use. It's the first part of the process.
Right.
I was told. So, now I'm into the special use, coming in at another $750. And, for a building that's been there 68 years with 9 different businesses in, where nobody had to get a special use because I want a pizza shop or a rent-to-own or a convenience store or a IGA,
Yeah.
and now I need one?
A shoe store.
I mean, you're just,
So let me clarify one thing. The grandfathering of those uses according to the zoning ordinance is ceased when that business failed to operate for 1 year. That's specifically written into the ordinance. That's not something we're making up here.
listen here, look at Little Caesars.
Little Caesars has been out of there for greater than a year.
Well worded.
Regardless, one of the pieces for the data requirement is a complete site plan containing all applicable data. And if you go further down, the zoning administrator or planning commission may waive any different submission of materials. We recommend as staff to not waive that. It's up to the planning commission to make their decision for future references. It should be a case-by-case basis if you're seriously about the grandfathering of things and not worried about underground utilities and things changing over 6 decades or whatever happens with different. So it's up to the planning commission to take it on a case-by-case basis, but I think the applicant is making this available for future applicants because that's already been paid, the fee's already been.
Paid for the site plan. I understand new construction. I have no problem with new construction, or if it was added to or did something, but you know the location, there's no addition available, you can't do nothing there. Donnie Nimitz is a foot away,
Did you ever have a site plan for it? Never.
didn't need one.
Well,
When did the new plans go in effect? How long ago?
The new zoning ordinance requirements, I'm assuming that it was 2017 or 2016, but
I think.
was it? Yeah, we were not staff at that time.
here
But
we
it was
go.
probably immediately following the adoption of the master plan, I would guess.
Yeah.
And I did work on that with you.
US 31 should be commercial. There's already 9 businesses in that one 6-block section where the rest is commercial, and you're making a special use out of that little section. Another added financial hurdle to have to jump.
Yeah, well, if you had it for 68 years, you must have made a few dollars off it,
My family.
or your family.
This would be a break-even deal if I get the guy to even come in now.
Yeah, I know
I
what
pay
you're talking about.
$4,000 in taxes, $2,600 in insurance.
Yeah.
With these fees, I'm up to $7-8 grand. Try to make that, that $1,500 a month.
Yeah,
I just want to reiterate, once the special use permit is granted and the site plan's approved, any lessee that comes in there from now on with any of the blanketed special use permits that would be applied for would not need to get one of
right,
these and would be.
right. Once we open it, yeah, well, good luck, anyhow.
Yeah. Good luck. All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next step in this is,
It's not a voting matter, it's a matter of
Oh, yeah.
seeing if the planning commission would take into consideration waiving any materials that brought to them on a case-by-case basis very seriously without a site plan. In this case, for example, if someone came here before obtaining a survey for $1,200, what would the planning commission stance be on waiving a site plan for a case like this as a material in number 5, as the planning commission could waive submission of materials? Does the planning commission weigh highly on a site plan as a needed material or a waivable material for a special use? That's all. That's basically what this is getting down to. There's no decision for this specific case. It's for future cases
Right.
moving forward. There's already been a survey bought.
Right.
Yeah.
so with the grandfather clause,
Either one of them are. We don't want, I don't think. Eliminate the site plan.
no, but I'm just saying with the grandfather clause, if the business has vacated that for more than a year, then it reverts. But when did Little Caesars vacate that building?
Oh.
I'm unaware of the specific date.
I think it was like May of
Here, I believe.
2018.
Should have, if you're saying it's over the year.
My recollection is spring of 2018. I used to live right down the road on Fifth Street, and I used to walk to Little Caesars all the time.
Is there a way we
And it
can
shut
waive
down.
that time frame in there at all?
Is there what?
Is there any way we can waive that time frame in there at all? historical nature of the businesses being in there.
I would be very careful setting a precedent waiving the grandfather time frame in the zoning ordinance. I think you have three options. You either amend the ordinance,
No.
you either take no action to do anything and the submittal occurs as it is, or you waive the submittal of a site plan, but the gentleman's already paid Spicer for that. I mean, because I know he paid Spicer already, but he could have come here before you and asked for this before even doing any submittal, before paying Spicer. But I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
I mean, all we're doing is reading text that is in black and white and following the regulations that have been put in place by city council as administered by staff under direction of the planning commission. That's where I'm gonna leave it.
I'd caution from getting away from special use review, especially on older buildings. I mean, the building is 68 years old. If you look at the traffic flow patterns on that, when it was a Little Caesars, you know, it might be a better way of addressing parking in that area. It was always a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit dangerous to drive into that parking lot. If a multitude of businesses were in there competing for that parking, it would be, it would put a burden on the amount, or just increase the danger level of that. And without a site plan review, you couldn't look at addressing those or those you couldn't put stipulations on addressing those issues that a building that is 68 years old, traffic patterns have surely changed during that time. So I'm just cautioning setting a precedent here.
By any means, we're not trying to deter development. Literally just reading the ordinance, like Rob said, black and white. Literally, I don't feel comfortable waiving a site plan for a special use permit.
Right.
And we brought it to your attention tonight that this is an issue for some, and it's up to you to decide if you'd like to consider waiving this in the future, if you'd like to keep it as is, or if you'd like to.
Keep it as is, Mark.
Do nothing. Yeah, I mean.
What is the?
I'll make a
feeling?
motion and we keep it as is.
Well, it's not, we can't
What's that?
take a motion on that. I mean, it
That's
just,
what you're asking for, right?
No.
We just want to know what the planning commission's feeling is towards it in the future. If we should bring these in on a case-by-case basis, saying that they don't have a site plan, the ordinance says you need a complete site plan. So if someone doesn't have a complete site plan, is it feasible to come before you without that to consider a special use permit and to waive that in the future? Or is what the ordinance says what we should continue with, needing a complete site plan? It's
Right.
One of the problems I see there is the access, what you're saying. If there was some way we could stop the access off of 31 and just bring it off of 6th Street, that would take care of a lot of problems. Because they have access off of 6th Street into that parking lot.
A lot of people park on the street, and now tore that house down.
Yep.
That's the parking lot that the church uses.
Yeah, and people
I thought
parking
a lot
there.
of People used to park there too to go to Little Caesars.
But I mean, the question we have before us is whether we accept site plans or you wanna take them on a case-by-case basis, as I understand it, correct?
all right.
and I'll start with you, Roger. What are your feelings on that?
Keep the site plan as it is
Okay,
required.
Marlene,
Same.
Pam?
I think every building needs a site plan.
Okay.
Bob?
I would say we don't need a super detailed site plan, but even if it's a hand-drawn site plan, you know, just a.
No, a professional, you're gonna have one, cause it's not gonna hold any water if it's not.
Well, there's many people that can actually make one that's decent, that are not engineers or surveyors. Architects can do that,
Well,
general contractors can make a decent one. I've seen many contractors make decent site plans without use of an engineer or surveyor or anything like that.
alright,
So we just need to see who is developing the plan.
okay.
But they're not changing anything on the building.
No, they're not changing anything on the building, no.
But I think it needs to be a professional. I don't think it needs to be the owner of the building doing it.
Well, some of those sites are owner-developer.
I understand that.
But, you know, I've dealt with a lot of them over the years. And
Yeah.
I'm in the area where I can go either way on it, because I've seen both sides of it.
Well, I'm saying, I prefer, I mean, if you want me to or say it flat out, a professional site plan presented by the applicant, That's what I'm asking.
And there's nothing saying that, but, you know, we're all asking our own opinions. I'm
Yeah.
voicing my opinion on it, and
Okay.
that's my stance on it, you know. If I'm against the rest of it, so be it.
Joe?
Well, I think, you know, we don't want to discourage development, but I think it is important that we are all on the same page on everything with site plans and new business. If that's going to discourage somebody from coming in to do that business, well, that's one of our requirements. You want to do business here, that's what you do. And that way you know from, and so does the applicant or the person wanting to get into that business, they know everything's above board. No
Right.
secrets, no, nothing underneath the ground. That might cause a problem.
That's why you got 86 empty buildings.
Yeah.
And with a question now that Bob brought up, or his statement, staff could, on a hand-drawn site plan, could approve or reject that? If we did go that route.
Yeah, if the site, the hand-drawn site plan met the requirements, and it had all the stuff there, nothing says it has to be certified, because the person may have that now.
It does,
Well,
it does,
That's the thing, is the ordinance does say that a professionally licensed engineer,
for a special use permit.
surveyor, landscape architect, or architect, or planner even, I think.
I
it
know a
says
lot
in
of
there.
builders that can put something, stuff like
Yeah,
that
I
together, and
No, yeah, I don't dispute that. As long as the elements are on there and it's drawn to scale, staff can decipher it, yes.
yeah, if it's
I'm
drawn
not-
to the correct
yeah.
standards where everything makes sense, what's going on, and, you know, because my son could draw one, and he's not an engineer, he works in he's a metal worker, and he understands how this stuff works.
That's why we need a professional.
No, but he knows, he can make,
Oh, I understand your son could be doing fine.
but I know many people, that can, I know a lot of builders that can do that, and they're not a design professional, which is everybody's talking.
I know, okay.
But the whole point, I think, that you're trying to bring up, the reason that this came up and Mr. Cruz had to do a site plan is because that's what the ordinance calls for
Yes.
currently.
You know, I'm not as opposed to site plan, I'm just
And that-
saying there's gotta be more levels that are acceptable levels of a type of site plan to come in.
There are for different uses, for example, residential land use permits can be done by the resident of the land that's being used for a home. Special use permits are a little different in the sense that they're not permitted surely, and that they're usually a commercial or something of a high-end need, including utilities and underground water and catch basins and different stormwater runoff, which some normal citizen might not know how to do. And understandably so, some normal citizens, if you will.
Like I said, we just gotta look to see what type of person is drawing this. If the person's a commercial builder that's done this for years and years, understands this well, gets a plan that shows you everything that we're looking for, and it meets all the standards, why is it gotta be a design professional?
To have a certified professional who's in the trades or doing some sort of that as a daily work would be necessary in our opinion, because that is something that they are comfortable with, they know all the different ins and outs, and someone who doesn't.
Right.
So on a special use, the only issue I'm really seeing, like, and, you know, as opposed to what you're saying, Bob, is the planning department would assume the risk if something were to be wrong on that site plan. If it's not a certified professional, we can go back to them and say, hey, you made a mistake, and hold them to make the correction. If the planning department assumes that risk by allowing that person to do it, who's not a professional, we're basically taking on that risk of saying, hey, you're not using the right, you know, and I'm not a builder. I'm a, you know, I'm not an engineer. I'm, you know, I'm a planner.
Right, but I'm saying, like, if the builder wants to put a liability release statement in there with it, saying that he takes full responsibility for any mistakes, how does that float? Would that float?
I think that would be better than allowing,
If the city attorney approves of it.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
because then by him signing that, he'd be releasing you from responsibility because he accepted the responsibility for any errors.
And it'd have to be approved by the city attorney on that, Bob, as well. So.
Yeah, well, that's understandable.
So
on
if
that.
this was on a case-by-case basis and we brought this to you, let's say today, and you approved that the site plan could be waived, for example, because it's not licensed, then they would have to wait another month to then present it, which would delay the development process. also regarding the 86 buildings.
Right.
Also, with the different special use permits attuned to the building, it gives different available opportunities for for different uses and different, if the building was sold. That's,
I'd like that. Now, when he's got the site plan and he gets all the special use permit, now, and say this tenant stays a year, does he have to go back through this again?
No.
Or is that for the life of the building, or so many
it's
years?
until the building is non-occupied for a year, and then that special use permit is technically expired. The special use permit stays with the land, and if there's a tenant in the building, it's still a valid permit. And if it was sold within the year of the lessee's leaving, then it would still be valid, things like that. So if it was non-occupied for over a year with all 3 tenants, then the permit would be expired, which is the benefit of doing a blanket special use permit for the extent of, you can have 1 tenant in there for a year and rotating the other 2, if you will, but as long as there's 1 anchor tenant that maintains the residency for that period, then it's a valid permit, is what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. It was a little convoluted, but does that make sense, Marlene?
How long would the site plan be good for though?
The site plan's good for as long as they don't do any different changes to it.
All right.
So it sounds like we stay as is. Correct? Okay, all right. We'll move along. Next is zoning amendment discussion, Thoroughbred Boat Company, 266 and 270 Third Street. And I will recuse myself of this and turn the meeting over to Bob.
The memo reads, Dear Commissioners, a zoning ordinance amendment is being applied for, or potentially at 266 and 270 Third Street pertaining to a boat assembly facility.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The location of this parcel is in the R2 Medium Density Residential District on a key street segment. This facility was once a boat assembly facility. The applicant is seeking a zoning ordinance amendment along a key street segment, which would permit this operation under a special use permit. A step-by-step guide, the application, and subsequent materials are following this memo. Section 532, key street segments, outline specific language and locations of the segments. The applicant is in attendance and may answer any questions the Planning Commission may have. This is a preliminary discussion to see the Planning Commission's thoughts as to the feasibility of this application at the next meeting.
Okay, Mike, you got something to say on it?
No, I'm just here to answer any questions if anyone has any on this facility. I owned it for over 20-some years.
Yeah, Mike, you wanted to identify yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Mike Kamalowski. I'm originally from Manistee, moved away, and I recently moved back. And with that, I'm bringing boat manufacturing back to Manistee. And this is a facility that I've owned back since the early 90s. It was a pretty dilapidated facility owned by Klingon Roofing. And back then, did a total reconstruction of the building, applied for special use to do light boat restoration and parts and marine parts and component distribution out of it, which was handled through that facility up until 2 years ago, almost 20 years.
Now, Mike, is this parcel including what used to be PJ's Bookstore?
It is.
I'd like to read the applicant's narrative letter to you, if that's all right.
Yep.
So this is regarding the zoning amendment request to the City of Manistee Planning and Zoning Commission from Thoroughbred Boat Company. The above mentioned property is located in the City of Manistee on the corner of Sibin and Third Streets, and it's owned by Michael and Nan Kamalowski. This location is part of a key street segment in the city. We are interested in initiating a boat assembly facility utilizing this property and feel it's an ideal location for this business to start and operate. This will allow for the assembly of manufactured parts to make a completed watercraft vessel through a special use permit. The proposed will not have any significant effect on emergency city service requirements, schools, stormwater systems, sanitary sewer facilities, automobile, truck patterns, and local traffic volumes. As a light manufacturing boat assembly facility, there will be very little noise and no chemical emissions, as all of the composite manufacturing is done out of the area. Manufacturing hours are planned between the hours of 7 a.m. through 5 p.m. Office hours may vary slightly within these hours. We will have approximately 10 employees within the first year with a maximum of 18. There will be plenty of parking on site for all employees and will not impede normal residential street parking. Deliveries to this location will be minimal and during the working hours. Our goal is to improve and maintain the existing buildings and site, which will enhance the area both environmentally and architecturally. Our facility will promote a friendly interaction between the surrounding neighborhoods. This site has had many improvements over the past 3 years, with several more planned ahead. We are seeking a zoning ordinance amendment along a key street segment, which would permit this operation under a special use permit. Warm regards, Michael R. Kamalowski. So specifically regarding the zoning ordinance amendment along a key street segment, as showcased in section 532 key street segments, it would be under a specific section of the key street segment. That is what the planning department is recommending. Instead of opening up the whole key street network to a manufacturing facility of such, we recommend doing assembly, if you will, to just make it specific to letter H, which is Sibbins Street from 5th Street to 1st Street. This will be defined if it's recommended to submit an application for this.
Just for further information, the location is located along a principal truck route in that portion of the city, so there's truck traffic already. Also within 1 block is the heavy industrial district. Pretty much viewable if you go stand out on the road. You can look down into the industrial district. Staff does feel that this use fits that area of the city. Assembly does not constitute, as was stated in the letter that was provided, noxious fumes, abundant noise, lights, that sort of thing. As a special use, you would be able to condition timeframes for deliveries, hours of operation, and parking, all that sort of thing. This would bring jobs to the community, obviously. And I think that staff feels favorable in terms of recommending approval of moving forward with development of zoning ordinance language to be placed within the zoning ordinance and brought before City Council following a public hearing and a positive recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Any comments?
Will you, this business, you will building boats?
Yes.
So the way I understand it, you're just gonna be having all the components brought in, you're gonna be putting the pieces together that make the finished boat to go out.
Correct, it'll be a boat assembly facility where just all the components are shipped in and
So
assembled.
basically, the hull will be made somewhere else, the motor will be brought somewhere else, you're just bringing all the parts together in this building.
Correct.
And it was this once before.
And it was a
It
building.
was, in
It was
boat
facility
restoration.
before. And that's also along the original business corridor of the city. It's the old 31.
Yep. Yeah, that's all right, there's nothing wrong. How about the trucks for delivery, is it all between 7 and 5 hours?
Yeah, otherwise there would be no one there to accept the deliveries.
Okay.
And deliveries are typically UPS truck, which may
Yeah.
come at the most maybe once a day. And a tractor deliveries, rarely, maybe once or twice a month.
Oh, it's right on the highway or right
Right.
there anyhow.
How much stuff would be stored outside for the building?
My intention is nothing.
Nothing?
Cars, but I don't want anything outside.
Yeah.
Now, once you assemble the boats, then what happens?
Once they're completely assembled, they're already pre-sold to a dealer network. They're wrapped up, put on a trailer, and shipped out the minute they're
So
complete.
basically, you're getting all the parts in, putting the boat together, shrink wrapping it, putting it on a trailer, and getting it out.
Correct.
And how about,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
You will have that, a trailer type vehicle to move that out.
It's just a boat trailer.
Oh,
Actually, the
okay.
trailer will be shipped in when the boat is complete, because that trailer will belong to that boat, so there won't be, there might be
so
a
it's
trailer
not
sitting
something
outside.
like
No,
five-
no.
Oh.
No, these will be independently delivered. The long-term plan is a controlled growth. We have a controlled growth plan over the next 5 years. In this facility will be a couple of years, and once we hit a certain peak, then we'll be moving to a much larger location. So once we get to that point, now you're shipping on transport trucks.
All right. And can I ask a question? And how about the house to the west? Is there a barrier in there, or will lights or traffic bother that particular?
There won't be any additional lights that we have other than what we have right now, the security lights.
Is there a fence there now?
There's a fence.
Yeah.
Oh, there is, okay. I can't-
Very vine-covered fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
Will there
Can't
be
even see
a lot
through
of
that fence.
fumes or paint spray fumes or anything?
Their intention is no chemical use, that's all being done outside, so we are literally taking the parts and screwing them together. Maybe a marine caulk will be used, or will be used, but it's nothing more than a caulk gun, there's really not an odor to it.
Why 7 AM? Why so early? Why 7 AM? Why so early?
Office. Office work. The office will open at 7 AM. Our hours, yeah, you typically, and I've been in the marine industry for 43 years, so employees, especially in the marine industry, like to come in early and leave early, so the hours could be 7 until 3 for them, but office hours will be 7 until 5 or 6.
No loud noises at 7 AM?
There are no loud noises. Yep, they'll be coming in. The most noise you'll hear is a screw gun, and actually you can't even hear a screw gun outside. If you stand outside the building and a screw gun's running, you can't even hear it.
And with Morton's nearby, you're gonna hear that more, and you're gonna hear the stuff from there.
It's 6 in the morning, you got semis go by and trains blowing their whistles, so they're much louder than any noise we'll produce.
That's true.
Yeah, having lived in that neighborhood area for a while, I know what kind of noises are in that area.
It's loud. Just the static noise from Morton's is louder than the noise we'll
Yep.
produce.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'm good, thank you, Bob.
Okay. Anything for anybody else? What's next on this part of it? What do we gotta do with it?
So
That's gonna make a motion to support.
to make a motion of support to put in an application for next meeting to amend the zoning ordinance in a specific key street segment under letter H between 5th and 1st on Sibbin for something like boat assembly as presented tonight.
Does anybody got any objections to that at all?
No, I'd make that motion,
I'll second.
Wanna make sure?
and keep things rolling.
Okay, so, just to be clear, you would like us to prepare the language
Yes.
Yes.
and go ahead and set a public hearing for the next December meeting
Yes.
and perform the mailing?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, just wanna make sure, okay.
I think that's everything then for this. Is that all
Thank you,
right?
Mike.
Thank you.
Okay,
Back to Mark.
Dr. Mark, you were doing a good job, Bob. Okay.
Yeah, but he's the head.
Going up twice.
Yeah. You want me to do it right now?
Thank you, Bob. All right,
Remy?
next zoning amendment discussion, lower story dwelling units.
Okay, I'll read the memo and then Rob would like to talk about this, okay?
Okay.
It's been brought to the planning department's attention about a certain type of housing in the historical area of Manistee's C3 or Central Business District. A resident has made it clear that their proposed type of housing, called a lower story dwelling unit, is necessary to be allowable in this area for specific reasons. Some include obtaining homesteading credits, etc. The planning department concurs that current language in this ordinance should be looked at and highly considered adding inclusionary language for other housing types in the Central Business District. Below is the current language for upper story dwelling units that's brought to your attention. The planning department is seeking the feasibility of amendment of ordinance considering lower story dwelling units when housing-related ordinance issues are collectively brought to the planning commission's formal deliberation and adoption in the later winter months.
No. We went through this a year ago. That's why we kept the lower units on the central business district as retail.
Retail.
Yeah, Marlene was with
That
us.
was the Glicks building.
Yeah.
And the other, Marco, you were with us.
The argument is to have that second or back half of the lower story, not the street facade, to be residential and have almost like a live-in business. That's what is being.
So you're almost talking like if it's on the riverside, so the backside is facing the river would be residential and
Correct.
not the River Street side.
Yes, and I think it would be important to approach the DDA to get their recommendation in terms of lower unit housing. I know that there was some discussion with the DDA and Denise a while ago. I was unsure of what was discussed with the Planning Commission at that time. I do know that I have been approached by the individual that is on River Street he has made it known that Denise and he had spoken and that there was some consideration for this. Staff did not feel comfortable bringing this as just a zoning ordinance amendment
Right.
at any point in time to the planning commission. We expressed that to the individual that is currently utilizing a lower story as a dwelling in the central business district. And we expressed to that individual that if they wanted to have the zoning ordinance amendment considered at an expedited rate, they would need to pay the fee, submit an application for a zoning ordinance amendment to the city planning commission in order for us to begin discussion. We felt it may be beneficial to have this discussion though this winter when we are going to be discussing all of the other housing recommendations that have stemmed from Project Rising Tide over the last year. Those that would be in consideration of the neighborhood enterprise zones for housing accessory dwelling units or granny flats as a use by right in potential districts. And also, was the last housing consideration? Duplexes as right in certain districts as being recommended by Project Rising Tide. Obviously, I think we're gonna require a work session to thoroughly discuss these. There are ways to handle these types of housing options without necessarily putting them through a special use permit process. If we develop specific regulations for these uses that would be applied specifically to them, even if they are used by right. So if duplexes, for example, there could be a specific consideration for off-street parking that has to be met, for separate entrances, for lighting, whatever those considerations may be. But I think that would require a work session for us, and likely January 9th, as we're going to be discussing here in a little while, potential meeting dates for 2020. We'll hand out those sheets. They're not in the packet, are they? They are in the packet, okay.
They've been handed out.
No,
They have been
I've got
handed
a
out.
question.
Oh, okay, so why don't we discuss that when we get to the meeting dates towards the end of the meeting?
I've got a question though.
Yes.
For the members about 2 years ago, we've been Mark, Maureen, and Roger, didn't we go with something on some residential on the back of the Hokinson's building? We had some plans on that at one time.
I don't know about it.
Somebody-
Well, we just,
Somebody submitted plans for that, but it didn't go through. But I think it was, at that time, the board made consensus to keep it as it was, the only upper dwelling, instead of putting housing on the main floor.
But there was so you're not talking that we didn't put it down on the lower level, but we kept the same level that the store was on in
Yeah.
the back there.
Street level.
Yeah, the street level one in the
Yeah,
back.
retail on the street level, residential up on top.
Well, and in that building, the business is on the street level, and the residential was gonna be straight right behind it.
Well, that's what this particular party is too. They're probably the old garage is what they're talking.
Yeah, but
That's
there's so
exactly
many of those
correct, Roger.
buildings.
Yep.
have
They built a
nothing
living
in them.
quarters on the back on Riverside.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, yeah.
That's,
But I
'cause I thought we had, back then, we had approved that residential part behind the Hokuson building.
No.
Not on the lower level, but I meant on the same level that the store was.
No, I think they could put a deck or something, but there was,
I don't recall.
Because I know they talked about an apartment in there.
Yeah, I recall you doing something.
But
that's a work session.
Right, yeah, I think that'd be a work session. We would like to be able to approach the DDA to get their feelings on it as well.
Sure.
Obviously, this would be something that would not allow the entire lower level to be a residence or dwelling. It would be a percentage. It would have to be the rear, no access to the retail storefront, that sort of thing.
Yeah, this,
There's ways to handle this.
Yeah.
But we do have one individual that is utilizing an area as a dwelling right now that is not permitted. And so, we need to begin to have this discussion so that we can give them a sound answer on whether or not the ordinance is going to be amended to allow for this use, or if, the ordinance would need to be enforced as is, and the use would need to cease.
what would happen,
If we were to, if the ordinance is not amended and and we do our job according to the zoning ordinance, we would have to eliminate that individual's dwelling on the primary floor.
Really?
Unless we just ignore it, but that's not, we're not in the business of ignoring
Now,
what the
is-
standards of the ordinance are.
Is this,
And these on an individual basis like other?
What's that? Okay, so we can make it a special use permit. And then they can apply for each individual building. I mean, realistically, that's,
Could we do it-
that's what you could do.
That district though, just take certain areas of that district and make it that way.
Yeah, you could do that, yeah. I think we should
All right,
talk,
so, yeah, we'll talk.
we should talk to the DDA, let's see how they feel about it. So if you would make it permissible to us to be able to approach the DDA maybe at their next meeting or the meeting after that, and start the open discussion with them so that we can bring you their thoughts at the January Planning Commission meeting.
now, is this the building that we're talking about with the garage and
Yes.
real estate and county?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, a couple of years ago, we did give some special considerations to the owner.
Yeah.
Mr. Lindeman,
The top floor, though.
Oh, no, well, this, or I think we're talking about two
we
different.
might be talking about, we're specifically talking about Tracy Lindeman.
Okay,
You know, Tracy
okay, the
Lindeman is-
Hokinson building.
Yes,
Okay, so never mind.
okay.
This is the other,
Yeah, we did give that guy some
yeah,
breaks.
we did.
We do think it'd be helpful to have a work session though with multitudes of different agencies, so we've looked at January 9th as a potential date. I'm not sure if now is the right time to set that, though it's something to consider. Maybe during our staff reports, we can put that on the calendar, but January 9th is the second Thursday of the month, right after, the day after New Year's, the week. So,
Right.
we can talk about that in staff reports. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
We meet on January 2nd?
We'll talk about that
Well,
in staff.
we meet when you decide we want to meet,
Yeah.
when we get to the calendar.
Oh, okay, I thought, all right, yes. that's-
Hopefully not on January 2nd.
Well, I mean, I don't know, you got highlights there.
We can talk about it, we'll talk about it in
Go on, but you don't have to all be.
True. Okay, moving along.
We could bring a bar.
Old business, 70 Arthur Street, special use permit decision.
Yes.
Okay, so we've heard the presentation and all seen the application and site plan for the parcel at 70 Arthur Street regarding the special use permit for a marijuana business. The following memo is pertaining to that. Dear Commissioners, Manistee County Planning Department recommends approval of the special use permit application at 70 Arthur Street based on the following stipulations. The following are all stipulations for special use permits pertaining to marijuana businesses, including, excuse me, if parcel is sold, the special use permit must go with the parcel. All work must be completed as required. Site must be developed to plan specifications. Existing pole signs must be removed, if feasible. All site plans using the word proposed must be changed to install. Sites with parking space changes must change parking calculations and resubmit for approval to the planning department as a non-substantive change. Must have interconnections to neighboring parcels via easements on west and east side of parcel and agreements written into deed which allow for movement across property lines. Site plans must be resubmitted for parcels affected, showcasing said connections for vehicular movement. Soil erosion permits required through Manistee County. All parcels to have fire suppression systems. All parcels must have Knox box on the building for fire department entrance. Special use permit valid for 2 years as determined by Planning Commission. Sign permits are required through the Planning Department with zoning approval finalized by Planning Commissioners Agreement. Applicant must schedule an appointment when work is completed for zoning administrator approval. Applicant to provide digital CAD files and site plans to Planning Department and survey to Equalization Department.
Register of deeds.
Register of Deeds.
That should say register of deeds.
It does say register of deeds.
It does say Register of Deeds, but it should say Equalization Department.
That's the change.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
We'll make sure it gets to both of them.
All right.
All right.
And the following are site-specific stipulations for 70 Arthur Street.
Right.
Rotate southwest parking so length of spaces is along the west setback line with adequate distance from entrance to the far west outbuilding. Number 2, facilitate connection to neighboring parcels to south on the west side of property. Number 3, curb cut is needed to meet commercial dimensions and standards for construction. And lastly, show storm water conveyance to south and east. The applicant is in attendance, and if anyone has any questions, to ask at this time.
Would you like to approach the podium and answer any questions? Name and address, please.
Ryan Fitzsimmons, 209 St. Mary's Parkway and 70 Arthur Street.
Any questions?
Okay, all the requirements that they've put to specifications, have they been met? That they have?
I believe so, yes.
And have that been submitted to the planning department?
We're just waiting on one more thing with the site plan, though everything is just about tightened up. It's the parking on the southwest. That is something that was a later addition, which we can talk about maybe tomorrow or a different day. It's
That's
a
gotta be
non-ma-
tweaked. That's something that's gotta be tweaked, yeah, with you guys.
Yeah, so it would just come through the planning department for a site plan finalization.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Anybody have any other questions? Roger, you always have a question.
Well, I know, but I mean, it's the same thing. It's probably 6 months before you get started and 10 to 12 employees and, right?
Yes, and yeah, that's.
Do you have
yeah,
the state license? You got the state license already, right? Or who was
yes.
it?
Well, we've been pre-approved
Yeah.
recreationally.
Okay,
as of,
so then this
today.
is this, so you're a step ahead of everybody else.
Well, no, I'm a step behind everybody else, but.
You're in the running of this stuff.
Yeah, well,
Kind-
yes,
well,
kind
kinda.
of, yes, yeah.
You're going
The
through the step,
process.
you're going through the step-by-step
Yes,
process.
yeah. We're hoping that the city expands the number of recreational permits available so we can get that permit, and I think there's some good direction or positive things towards that
Yeah.
over
no.
the next few weeks or few months, so.
Regardless, the first step is obtaining the special use permit, of course, and that's what we're voting on tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So he knows what the game's about. Yeah, I'd say, what do you need, approval for this, or?
Well, can I add a question on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is the Michigan Lumber Building, correct?
This is I think that's the marina. building.
Michigan
Yeah,
Lumber, yeah.
East of Michigan Lumber before.
On the, and I missed it, the first time you presented, so, on the south side of the building, there is a scale.
Yes,
What's gonna happen with that?
that'll stay there. That's a really interesting feature that it still works.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it does,
Okay.
as far as we can tell.
Inside?
They'll
Inside
be
the
weighing
building?
their,
It's,
they're weighing their marijuana on it. A
Wow.
truck though.
I doubt that.
Taking off for
The
truck
trucks are
weighing,
just gonna drive right onto it.
Yeah.
Well, no. And then-
off for commercial truck weighing.
It's
Right,
loaded.
right.
You're gonna be weighing something.
I don't know why I thought of it, but cause I worked there
Yeah,
for high school, so,
yeah, it's still there, and as far as we can
It's
tell, with
functional.
the car on there and there looks to be a change. It's pretty,
there you go. Now you can
Unique building.
supplement your business on weighing cars and trucks.
yes.
So,
There you go.
You gotta get trailers weighed before you can get plates for them.
yeah,
So something's gotta be done someplace on it.
yeah.
Value-added business.
They come down to
Yeah, that's the value added part.
Side business.
Is that what we're after?
I think we're voting on the special use.
Are we
Correct. Yep,
voting?
Yep, so
Okay.
a motion, a second, and a vote would be good.
All right. Is everybody good? Any other questions? So would we entertain a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Bob, second.
I'll second.
Shelley,
There you go.
discussion. Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Weiner, Commissioner McBride,
yes.
Commissioner Yoder,
Yeah.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes. Motion approved. Thank you.
So now you'll get with me and we'll schedule a notarization date for the county. Just reach out to me tomorrow, maybe we can talk okay.
I want to thank everybody, and then I hope in the future that I can maybe fill some of those vacancies and with other businesses in the area too. So hopefully you'll see me again soon.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you. Public comments? Anybody would like to speak? Please approach the podium, name and address. You have up to 300 seconds.
If you have one?
300 seconds.
Linda Beaton,
One,
256 Hughes Street. I'm on city council.
Oh, you're one of
I don't
those
know.
people.
Some people do, some people
Oh,
don't. Okay, so this was a great meeting tonight because I found a lot of things I wanted to talk to you about. First of all, just to let you know that economic development is foremost on our minds, particularly because we just have a very big desire to increase the population in the town, increase jobs. So we're looking for every opportunity to do that. And that includes outside the DDA district, and that includes the county. So we have been asked by another applicant to consider increasing the number of recreational licenses in the marijuana overlay district. And we decided to put that on a work session last night. So it's going to be coming up between now and the end of November that we will consider increasing the number of recreational licenses. I don't know where everybody else stands. I don't even know where I stand right now. But I'm thinking, after listening to everything I heard last night, if we're going to have a work session on this, we might also consider increasing the number of licenses for the other different types, say the grow licenses, because just from my personal perspective is that the more competition we have, the better. I don't want, for example, one particular group just to have all of the grow licenses. I would like to see that happen, not just at the Ironworks building, want that to develop, but I'm thinking we've got a couple lots in the industrial district that have once already been approved for growing, and I think there's another retail marijuana facility that wants to also, they said they had a handshake agreement on one of the lots. They want to do a grow out there. So I think we should look at maybe, we'll see how the rest of the council feels, adding more licenses in some of these other categories, which I think would be economic development, hopefully, and be good for our town. I thought about the former Little Caesars building and the restrictions on it. Now, I know you have a year, it's part of your zoning, that if it's been vacant for a year, you guys kind of start over. But couldn't you, excuse me, just tweak that a little bit so that if nothing has changed between the time it was vacated, could you at least extend that to, like, say, a year and a half to 2 years? If it's been vacant for 2 years and nothing has changed on that site plan.
You could, but the language in the ordinance needs to be changed before we can do that.
Well, I think that's easy to do.
The planning commission would have to amend that. I'm not comfortable just doing that based on you waiving the grandfathering by a motion. That is not legal.
And I wouldn't
we need
consider
to amend the
doing it
ordinance.
unless there was zero change on that site. Then I would consider extending the time limit.
But you
As
never
just a
had a site
suggestion.
plan.
But didn't we, Linda, about almost a year ago, go through a list and prioritize a lot of these empty buildings and how are we gonna work to get them, into a development program?
This one,
And the longer you extend, it sounds like the less a property owner is making
And that was
efforts
specifically
doing-
targeted down in the DDA district.
Right, right.
We're not talking about, and we're talking something different. We're talking about US 31.
Okay, but then why would you give the DDA, perhaps, they might argue, preference over the US 31 corridor? Give them
Maybe this is something you need to work out, but
Yeah.
it seems to me if you're not gonna change anything, and it's been less than 2 years, that it's something to think about. I mean, one of the things that I did, and I think Mark did the same thing, because he ran for office on city council, I went down to the senior center and I talked to all the seniors. We were invited to talk to the seniors. I went from table to table to find out. I just took my notepad and said, hey, what do you want? In the city. And they said more senior housing is number one on the list. The second thing they said on their list was you have to make it easier for businesses to come into this city because they're going to Ludington or they're going to other places. And I think you guys are doing a great job because honestly, Denise could not be the 3 people that you are. But we need to also keep in mind that we need to encourage businesses to come in here.
I want to repeat, we're not discouraging, we're following the letter of the law and the zoning ordinance that is adopted by city council, administered by us as staff under the direction of the city planning commission. We will do whatever the ordinance says. But
Okay.
I'm not gonna bend the rules illegally against the Zoning Enabling Act to allow something to occur that is not outlined as allowance in the zoning ordinance of the city, that city council adopts and
Well,
adopts
I
amendments to.
think I could probably bring that message forward. and I'd
That's
be
fine.
happy
I
to.
just, that process needs to occur before we do this, and it's gonna be a 2-month process, so I
Okay.
just,
Well,
I'm
it's
not gonna
something to
bend the
work-
rules.
It's something to
it's
work
done.
on.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm glad I
Okay.
was here, otherwise I would not be aware of it.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that happened. As far as the boat plan, the thoroughbred boat plan, I moved up here from Oxford, Michigan in 2001. And in Oxford, Michigan, we had a lake in Oxford that we had a boat manufacturer on, and they used to just test the boats out on the lake. And it was so cool. I can't remember whether it was Century, I can't remember.
Chris-Craft.
What, is Chris Craft? So the boats were being tested out there. When that business went out, we lost jobs. I can't begin to tell you what a great asset this would be coming back to the Manistee to have this happen. In addition, I have friends who have worked at the wiring harness place out in Onekama. And the fact that this company wants to employ local businesses to help in the assembly of these boats is really a big boon to economic development. So I'm very happy to hear that and want to be supportive of that. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Since you're a council member, Linda? Where do all these, business, I mean, we've got several marijuana businesses coming in and the boat business. As a council member, and you ask these people at the senior center, what are these business plan on getting the people to work? Do you have any idea?
I think a lot of them will probably come from the county or outside the county.
I
because
mean, do you see a lot of help
Survivable-
wanted jobs around now?
Pardon me?
Do you see a lot of help wanted jobs around now?
Have you looked at Michigan Works? There's a ton of jobs out there.
Then how come, all right.
They're for this area.
Yeah, I thought maybe you had the insight on, you know, cause these.
I look at Michigan Works every couple months
Oh, yeah,
to see the number of, when people complain to me that there's no jobs here, take a look.
yeah, that's what I mean.
There's plenty of jobs, there's people that don't wanna work.
Or below, you know. And
They're not all that way.
Well, you're not gonna get a $30 an hour job, but gee, where's,
But
Detroit.
can't support a family on $15 an hour job either, you know.
holy, what kind of family you got?
Expensive.
Pretty high price.
You know, all of these little pieces fit together, so we have to do whatever we can
Mm-hmm.
to,
Thank you, I just thought I might have some insight.
oh, by the way, the seniors really want housing. That would really help our housing stock if we could get them into some senior housing, so.
Well, could they do a place like the Ironworks?
Well, that would be an interesting mix of the population. The seniors over the grow operation.
Everybody's arthritis would be cured.
I don't know.
Glaucoma cured.
No, it looked like he had a quite
Oh.
a few units.
That would be a very,
Probably want all those
Alright.
jobs.
all I,
There
Be
you go.
greeters.
Mark, I don't know what the seniors told you when you were there, but I had a whole group, Horizon Point, and they just love that building so much. And they just wish that there was more in the city of Manistee, because that's right in Filer, right across the line. But they're really happy there. They've been there a long time, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along.
Well, I want to say one
Okay.
comment about if we're looking at an amendment on this at a later date. You have a building that's 68 years old in this case that we're talking about, and I realize like extending it out is a good idea, but just like the stock, our housing stock that we've talked about with Rising Tides and Sarah Lucas and these individuals, a lot of these need to be gone back through and looked at. So if we're gonna grant some kind of amendment where it has been occupied over a year, maybe it needs to be brought up to code. Something needs to be like a building code inspector, somebody needs to go through that and look and make sure that they, although the use hasn't changed, they're brought up to spec. Because a vacant building for a year, a lot can go wrong. So if you're willing and thinking about granting something along these lines, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Current inspection,
Very good point.
a current inspection of some type.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
No, I don't think we wanna do away with site plan.
They should be.
It's something we need. Okay.
Aren't there some kind of laws already out there that if a home has not been lived in a year, that it has to go through an inspection?
A home? No.
No.
Really?
No, there's not. The house can sit vacant for years and years. Many farms are that way, to be vacant for years and years.
But I mean, someone that's gonna move into it,
Well, if you're gonna buy and get a loan through a lender
Yeah.
of some type, a lending institution, they are going to require an inspection.
Right.
But if you had the cash, if something's available for $45,000 and you have $45,000 in your bank account, you can buy it outright. No one's gonna require anything about it besides, point of sale. We have point of sale septic and well inspections out in the county, but.
But the banks will require an appraisal, not an inspection, and it's two separate things.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
inspection is an option that the buyer has. It's not required.
That's not required, okay.
Inspections are not, appraisals are by banks.
Well, that's something we're gonna be talking about, particularly when we come to this housing, is requirements for inspections, because if we're gonna start doing duplexes and allowing all these rentals in town, the city's codified ordinance needs to be brought up to snuff, because it is
Right.
not right now. And you're gonna create a huge slumlord situation, otherwise, or the city
Yeah,
would.
we
already have
definitely
that.
don't need that.
Already have that.
Yeah, because there is a rental inspection program, but it is not near stringent enough.
Lords around.
There's a few, yes, there's a few.
Okay.
That's true.
Nope, it's growing late, so let's move along. Any correspondence received?
Nothing that's not been read.
Okay, thank you. Staff reports?
There's a few things to talk about for staff reports regarding some things that were talked about tonight. Let's do the calendar first. So,
the calendar.
in front of us, or in front of everyone, is a calendar with different highlighted dates. These are the potential City Planning Commission meeting dates for 2020. Proposed meeting dates would happen at the same time, 7 PM at the same place, Manistee City Hall in the council chambers. So you'll see every month has the first Thursday of the month except January, which the first Thursday falls the day after New Year's. So that being said, it'd be consistent with what happened this last year, and that just January would change with being the second Thursday of the month. Now you can approve these dates, and we can get them on a citywide calendar and the website. Do you have a question?
Can we look at July as a group? Do we want that? July 2nd?
During the Forest Festival?
Yeah. Do we want to move that one maybe to
Well,
the
would you
9th?
prefer to the ninth?
I'm just throwing it out there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's, Forest Fest will be active.
Partying already.
Okay.
Yeah, Forest Fest will be active.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd like to switch July to the 9th.
Well, if everybody's in agreement.
How about,
I agree.
how's everybody feel about that? Moving July 2nd meeting to the 9th? Raj?
Yeah, that's what the
Good.
lady wants.
Marlene?
There's gonna be a lot of activity going on that week before
Yeah.
leading up to the Fourth.
Yeah, I'm open, sure, right?
Bob, you're good with it?
Yep.
Oh, Kai was talking about that?
No,
Oh, yeah.
Nothing to say?
If she's gonna bring up Forest Festival, I'm gonna bring up the Slave Out Weekend at December 3rd.
Good point.
Thursday, 'cause I'm not gonna be here next month, because there's stuff going on, because that's the
Slave
opening
Out.
day of Slave Out Weekend.
Uh-huh.
I don't care whether we move it or not, but I won't be here.
So we'll focus on July really quick before we talk about the next month. July 9th, we'd like to switch to that date. That's been confirmed. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Further, any other 2020 dates that, while we're on 2020?
Well, Pam brought up December.
December of this year, right, so,
Thursday is opening of Slave Out Weekend.
okay, so,
Lots of stuff going on.
You wanna move that to the tenth?
would you like to push it back to the 12th of December then? Is that what's being,
The 10th.
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 10th of 2020.
oh, we're talking about 2020, okay,
Yeah.
still good, okay, yeah.
Thought that's what you were saying.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about next month, Pam, forgive me.
I won't be here next month because
All right.
of it, but yeah, I'm
Okay,
thinking next
so-
year.
That's fine, so December 10th, thank you. Does that sound feasible for everyone else too?
Yeah, we're doing December 10th.
December 10th?
Yeah. That's the 3rd of next year.
So we move that to the 10th?
Is that what we did?
Okay.
Does that work for everyone? Okay.
That is the 3rd
Okay.
of next year,
Yes,
Yeah.
2020.
2020,
Yep, roaring 20s.
not 2019.
Okay. All right. We're good with that?
All right.
All right?
Okay, so other staff reports include a harbor plan and a rail relocation. The rail relocation plan has been finalized as a draft and showcased. It's actually finalized as a final. So that being said, it's a document that you'll see on your screen now. It was created by the Manistee County Planning Department that goes over different things. The first page kind of goes over what this document is, comprehensive guide to supporting relocation of a railroad around the north side of Manistee Lake to the surrounding communities. Table of contents. Executive summary and history going over where this plan started, where it is today, and different areas that pertain to the site. As we continue, the overview map showcases where the existing rail location is in the green, as well as the different contour lines in purple and other different areas that the rail goes through in light green, including public lands and things like that. The roads are showcased in the darker line there, and the highways are in red. So this is around 3-mile tract to the north. Okay. There's different policy and supporting documents that have showcased the support for this, including what's seen there, the corridor management plan and such. This sideways map showcases the different details of bridge crossings and different at-grade crossings and parks and campgrounds, which would help connect different individuals to different areas and also different barriers that we would have moving forward. So this map showcases the different actions for different proposals and needs for closing different areas, as well as non-motorized trail cutoffs and such. There's different opportunities this plan presents, including economic, recreation, and health, transportation as well. Here's some implemented actions in the sense of the yellow, if you can tilt your head, is the proposed non-motorized trail. And regardless, the different options 1 through 3 are showcased in the purple, and then the blue across the lake on the southern side is another option. That being said, here is a vision for redevelopment for the consumers, or the
Rail yard and consumers.
the rail yard and the consumers, red being large retail with different retail around the 31, and then residential along the waterfront. Green's obviously green space, and then a walk along the trail.
That looks really nice.
Yeah.
So the synopsis is that this is a serious need. There's support. There's obtained public input, as well as it would connect 4 local units of government, and there'd be 4 rail crossings, health impacts, abundance of health impacts, as well as cost estimates were around $10 million in 2008. They should be updated, and that's a recommendation. So that I just wanted to give a brief synopsis that we worked and got that completed for everyone to see. And if you'd like to see it in PDF, please reach out to the planning department, and we'd love to email it to you. Secondly, we've been working on a rail or a harbor plan for the city, which documents all the different city-owned infrastructure along the different water bodies, including Lake Michigan, Manistee Lake, and the Manistee River Channel. Those pertain to the marinas, the other areas like boat launches and river walk, as well as bridges and such. So the harbor plan is about 13 pages in, and considerably about 1/3 of the way done. By December or end of the year, we're looking to have it tightened up for a application date to the DNR in the beginning of February. So it's a quick turnaround, though, with the capabilities of the staff here, as well as the tenacious drive, we should be able to pump it out as soon as possible. I'd like to give you a update next month, but the harbor plan and rail relocation plan are some pretty good pillars that we'd like to put out to the community. As we heard tonight, with different businesses coming to town, housing is a huge option, a huge hurdle. So we wanted to bring it up again, the May 2nd, Beacon and Raider housing options, Project Rising Tide workforce housing presentation. We would like to open it up again and put a work session on the books, so we can have some thorough discussion with many different agents, so we can make this into fruition. Some of the things we'd like to consider are accessory dwelling units, duplexes, upper story accessory dwelling units, as well as downtown houses. So I think at this time we can consider looking at the 2020 calendar and potentially get a work session down, so we can get this ball rolling officially, if you will. So January, we have the 9th down. We'd like to tackle it as early as possible in the year, so we can have some so we can champion some progress. So I'm not sure if you want to double it up for the planning commission meeting and make it beforehand, if you'd like to have a special date in January. Though I think we should also consider the city council and maybe some other joint operations, so we can get everyone in the same room at the same time and literally spend 2 hours and just talk about what is needed and feel people out. So
Typically, when's the normal meeting for the city council to meet with all the commissions in a, that's a yearly thing.
Yeah, that was, okay, so that typically occurred in December, but with Project Rising Tide wrapping up, Lizette wrapping up, we actually had a meeting today with the city manager and our agents at MEDC who handle the RRC program, because the city of Manistee is now up for reapproval, and we needed to get a baseline of what we needed to have completed in order to maintain our certification. So obviously, we're not gonna be holding the December meeting. That is much too short of a time frame. So we're gonna probably have to look at January. And staff feels that we wanna handle the site selection process for the RC program a little differently than we did last year. We think we need to pool individually the different boards and councils to determine their sites that they feel should be placed in the redevelopment ready communities program. And then we would get those lists from them, bring them all together as staff, and have a meeting with the planning commission. We should whittle those down at a planning commission and staff level based on the recommendations from the other group. And then we should bring everybody together with the final list and do the ranking together. Last time it was a little haphazard, I'll be honest with you, and I don't feel that, I've done enough charrettes over the years that was not effective, and I did not feel comfortable doing it like that. I would like to do something a little bit different. And I think having board, because what happened was we got one member or two, I mean, the planning commission was there, don't get me wrong, but we had like one HTC member. We had one Brownfield member. We had a few members of city council. We had one member of the DDA. The DDA chair wasn't even there. So I think if we put it in their ballpark and send it to their individual meetings and ask them to generate a list and then give it back to us, then we know that every single one of them was there at the meet, or should have been there at the meeting, putting their brains together to figure this out, rather than just having a haphazard meeting with one member from each group.
So actually, what you'd be able to say is, well, you had your opportunity for the meeting. If you didn't go to your meeting to come up with this list, your representative at the other meeting represents all of you.
Yes. Yep. And I think that makes me feel a little more comfortable, because last time I got a little blowback, and I was kind of like, well, why wasn't everybody at the joint meeting then? You know, that's not my fault to sit at the door and have a list and say, you know, wait, everybody's not here, let's cancel the meeting tonight, or we can't take their consideration because only one member of the board. I don't want to get heat like that again. I would rather just have everybody handle this at their own meetings, bring it to the planning commission, and then call a joint meeting. And whoever shows up to that joint meeting, it doesn't matter, because they've already given us a list of their combined ideas.
They don't give you a list, it's their problem, not ours.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's the way to do it.
Can I just add, when we got that, we didn't really understand what the criteria was for how those things got on the list. We were just asked to prioritize it.
Yes.
And we're like, based on what?
And that was one of the issues to begin with RRC. We did not have a whole lot of direction. And to be quite honest with you, some of the sites that made it onto that list should not have been marketed, because they had viable businesses in them at the time, and they technically were not for sale. And we're putting them out there, and so I was not comfortable with that, but I was being directed by different boards and groups that, nope, this should be added to the list. Or
We don't like this business here, let's put it for sale.
yeah, you
That's
know,
what it's
and
coming
that's,
down to.
I think we need to develop a criteria exactly that says, okay, it's a vacant building.
All right.
Someone has approached the owner and they would be open to discussing a sale of it or a leasing of the space, something along those lines, because we had some sites on there that should not have been on there because they were not available for sale. There was
I'm just
viable
saying we'd like to
businesses in
sell the
them.
place.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. No, it
So
sounds
why
like a
don't,
plan we have
we'll
to talk
develop a
about.
process, and then we bring that to you in December.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that and just go over it really quick, and then we can get that out to the respective staff members to those different boards and say, here, give us 20 sites. We're gonna end up whittling it down to 10 as a planning commission, and then we're gonna call everybody together and they're gonna get re-ranked, and that's how this is gonna go.
So we're almost talking like a
Because
joint meeting
you are
in
the ones who
February.
are redevelopment ready certified.
Right.
Well, it's kind of the time frame you're looking at. We're almost talking about having a joint meeting in February.
Yeah, probably February. But that actually works out well because today at the RRC meeting, a lot of the, I don't want to call them prerequisites, but the continuation to maintain certification need to be complete at the end of the year. So that will give us a little time beyond that to make sure that everything is in order for certification and that it is being maintained. And then we're moving through with the process because we are certified, because you can't technically submit the sites to them for placement on Zoom Prospect or whatever they're using where they're marketing them, unless you're a redevelopment ready community. And so then we would know, yes, we've met the requirements to continue our certification. Then we're submitting sites to the RRC MEDC after that fact.
I think we're just in that transitional stage with the county the last time we did this. So it was.
Yeah, I
a
was
little
on the job for
helter-skelter.
like a month
Yeah.
trying to pull all that
So,
together, and I didn't
yeah.
know what I was
So we'll
doing,
have a
so.
better footprint of it,
The year
so,
before that, I think, went more smoother.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, the year before was more smoother. It was just, like I said, that,
yeah,
like, you're thrown into it, say, here it is.
yeah.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
All right, anything else? I think Mike has something.
Yeah, a real thing that's coming down here is FEMA regulations. It's not, a fun thing to talk about, but I think it's important. We were advised by the County Planning Commission to develop a letter for our county board about FEMA requirements and responsibilities. Since we do zoning administration and such for you guys, we thought it would be important to also allow you that same courtesy. I don't know if you're aware of it, but FEMA is issuing out new maps that are going to be adapted late summer, early fall 2020. If you looked at the paper, we kind of tried to put it out in that as well. There's responsibilities that the city is required to uphold within their agreement with FEMA. Basically, they say they do these things and they allow you to be in the National Flood Insurance Program. Some of these include having your zoning saying that you're going to zone properly per FEMA's guidelines. If you were to look at page, I believe it is, of the packet I gave you, page 5, you'll see kind of what a coastal lot should look like with as far back to the road setback, impact dune in front of it. Thinking about this, how many areas of Manistee or the city or the county have you seen this kind of development? A house on stilts with a buffer in front of it, not built directly on the lake. These were guidelines that some of these communities have been supposed to be adhering to for 50+ years. They joined many of them in the 1970s. There's certain areas of the city that are now going to be adopted into a new flood zone. The maps that you guys have on file are from 1986. A lot of the people out on over by the Coast Guard station should have been built to these standards. So a lot of the communities are they're not upholding their end of the bargain. If that is the case, this is subsidized insurance. If you read through the letter, it will explain to you some of the problems that have happened. It's really important that we let the residents know that this is happening. Like I said, we've done a lot to try to put this out. Because right now, let's say you're in the lowest zone, which is X, which is basically you don't need flood insurance, and you're getting put into an A or an AE flood zone, which is like a coastal flood zone where you see where you should be building on stilts, these types of things. if you were locked into the flood insurance rate on that X, you can actually get grandfathered into that zone. And so if the new maps come out in late summer, you can basically be grandfathered into that rate, which you could see thousands of dollars in savings. If you are mapped into it and you don't pull insurance or you appeal, they say keep your insurance through the appeal process, because if you don't, if you don't, then you're going to get kind of like when you have a mortgage company that requires you to have insurance and you don't have it, and then they force it on you and it's astronomical. You'll get the same thing in this case. So if you see a suspension of the National Flood Insurance Program within the city, the residents would all face this at one time. Now, I don't think that's in FEMA's best interest to do this, but it is something to look out for, that we need to make sure that we're meeting these guidelines, which includes building to the correct standard. One thing we at the planning department have put out is basically like the very last thing. The planning department doesn't have the funding at the county level, the staffing, or a certified building code official, the expertise to administer this program for Manistee County communities. It is our hope that you understand this dilemma that's facing Manistee County, our communities and our residents. This is not a county responsibility, and it really needs to be known that. This is, FEMA made the agreement between townships and municipalities, not between the state or the county. So really the county at this level does not have any agreement in place, and it is not our responsibility to ensure that this is taking place. So it is something to look back. There's certain criteria that you should be meeting, which includes adding the floodplain requirements to the township municipality zoning ordinance, ensuring that the building code for your building code for the building in the floodplain, you're allowing that. So having a floodplain administrator, a person that's responsible for administering the community's floodplain management program, a community repository for public inspection of flood maps, an estimate of land area, population, and number of structures in and outside of the floodplain. So these are all requirements of the floodplain program, and we need to take a hard look and say, are we meeting what we're supposed to be doing? And if we're not, then we need to start adjusting fire and be proactive instead of retroactive. I mean, so it's a lot of information to digest. If you read it over, I would appreciate it. And then bring your questions to the next planning commission meeting, and we can talk about it then.
On the open maps.
Thank you, Mike.
We had some of this stuff before. I had to do a flood certification on a house in Bear Lake.
Right.
There was no FEMA maps in Bear Lake. The insurer kept saying, we need a flood certification. I had to go through 2 weeks worth of back and forth paperwork to convince the insurance agency with letters from FEMA and Bear Lake Township that there is no flood certification. So some of this stuff will streamline things.
So from my understanding with talking to other people that have gone through this, when FEMA remaps you, they come down with a pretty heavy hand. The mortgage companies and lending institutions, they're watching for when these maps come. You guys got a taste of it, a small taste of it last summer, where they kind of jumped the gun a little bit. Onekama Village ran into this where they weren't part of the National Flood Insurance Program. A certain person out there went to sell their house. The mortgage company required that they have flood insurance. They were not part of the National Flood Insurance Program. The insurance was too costly for the individual, and the deal fell through. So here's another thing.
There was a FEMA map on Onekama at that time too.
There is a FEMA map for Onekama Township. However, Onekama Village is not.
Yeah, when you look at the maps, you see just a big all blank spot where the city
Right,
was.
because they're not part of the program. They have since contacted Matt Occupante, which his contact information is in your letter. It is important that we look at this and make sure we're adhering to this, and because the last thing we want for our residents is for them to have to pay astronomical rates for their insurance and to put them through that. But also, So if you don't have a mortgage, you're not required to carry flood insurance. Now, this is just something to keep in mind, and it is in there. You can grandfather your flood insurance zone right now, and then when you go to sell your building, you can transfer it. So let's say you're not worried about it. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm an older individual. I paid my mortgage off. I don't want to pay for flood insurance. At some point in time, and you can get grandfathered into a lower rate, at some point in time, somebody is going to have to sell your house. It would benefit the people that you're leaving it to lock in your insurance now, as opposed to a higher rate to where your house doesn't become marketable. So there's a lot of information, like I said, in here. Please bring your questions to the next planning commission meeting.
Okay, thank you.
It's not an easy subject.
No.
I've dealt with it for years, and I've had many headaches over that FEMA stuff.
It really is.
Going through those headaches right now.
And it's not our responsibility as the county, and we're not floodplain administrators.
No.
Yeah.
So we answer a lot of these questions for the community, and we've been putting it forward. But there's been many, many meetings about this in the years leading up to this, and Rob can attest to that. He's sent out many emails. There's another meeting on November 12th at the high school dealing with erosion. I suggest going to it, educating yourself, read through this pamphlet, and you know, letting know, because it is a worrisome topic, especially with what's going on with the lake levels.
I even said, like, these guys are getting their feet wet in that stuff, and they're finding out how much headache it is, just on what they're required to know. But stuff that they don't know is like, they're here, the stuff they have no idea what it is way up here. So, there's no way they can be experts on it, but hopefully they'll be able to get, somebody will give them the resources that they can contact.
So Bob, I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. We're not floodplain administrators.
But they should be providing you stuff for who to contact.
Yeah.
Well, they do, but at the same time, the city is required to have a floodplain administrator that has these answers. I think Sean is yours, but in the other townships, this person doesn't exist.
Yeah. The city's well covered. Sean's been coming to the FEMA meeting since 2014 when the draft, they started talking about the study. And
He's only gonna be qualified up to, and he's gotta go with somebody above him too.
Well, there's also the point of, this is usually, this person is usually embedded into a building code enforcement role. And the county doesn't have a building code enforcement program. You guys have just switched over, I believe, from the state. And Manistee Township uses AGS. There's no centralized location for this entity. So this is an issue, and maybe the community should start talking to each other and try to come to a resolution that they can agree upon together, because it's a requirement of all of them. So these floodplain administrators do not make a little bit of money. They make quite a bit. And
Headaches are huge.
And I'm just saying, like, I don't know if it's a possibility for individual townships to have that one person they need to actually do this program correctly by themselves. So, exactly.
There's too much, like, one person cannot handle it.
Mike, what time is that meeting on the 12th?
I don't know, but I can blast you guys out an email. I think we're not hosting it. It's actually the FEMA floodplain manager and Brian Gutowski with the Sheriff's Department.
The one you had in the paper?
No.
That was advertised in the paper by any chance?
It probably was. It was
Couple
Brian was
days
putting it
ago?
out. What's it? I'm sorry. It's about erosion. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have 3 or 4 different speakers from different.
Yeah, that's correct, Roger.
Dance was in charge, I think. He was
Yeah,
calling
Jeff
people.
Dons.
Wasn't it Dance?
So that concludes our staff reports. As always, please reach out.
citizen planner.
Okay.
Oh, there's one.
Citizen planner.
Just real quick, yeah,
Sorry about that.
we'll put in the order, citizen planner, web series should be available now. As I said, it was gonna be available at the end of the year, so I will contact MSU Extension, get the order in for that, and we'll get the, DVDs or however they come to us, digitally, and then, we'll watch them as time permits. Our meetings are busy, so, when we have, availability at a meeting that we know we're not gonna run with agenda items for a couple hours, we'll bring those and we'll watch them so that we can maintain certification. And then we can also probably provide them to you individually or set meetings, if you just wanna come in and watch them, either here, at the planning department, whatever it may be, we can discuss that once we have them in hand as well.
Okay.
Wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Okay, move along. Member discussion. Roger, you have anything?
Yes, one question. In regard to the gentleman with the grocery store, is it true that the prices are that much different in Ludington for site plans?
I will call, but I sorely doubt it, you
I do
guys.
too, but I mean, I just,
$25 per, I mean, maybe in the township, maybe he's talking along 31 in the township, in like Hamlin Township, or,
Corridor between Scottville and Ludington, it might be that low.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
if he's
But
over Pere Marquette
Ludington,
If he's in Pere Marquette
Ludington city
Township, no.
limits, it's like, it would be like saying, someone being like, well, talking about Filer Township and saying Manistee.
I think.
But
he might be
Filer
talking-
Township fees aren't that low, and neither are Manistee Town. To get fees that low in this area, the only fee I know for even a residential land use permit that's less than $40 is the Village of Eastlake.
right.
I think he might be talking Amber Township, not
Yeah,
Pere Marquette Township.
exactly, that's what, so,
'Cause if you-
I mean,
if you're
I don't have a
talking
whole
anything-
lot of time, but I'd almost be interested in just calling them to get that information so we can put it in the record the next meeting so that we
Well, if
don't
you're
have
talking,
false information.
Linda's
going
saying
around
the
like
same,
that.
you know, we're losing them to Ludington, maybe there's a reason why, maybe it does, I don't know.
In the
Maybe it
Pere
does
Marquette
cost.
area, there's not a lot of places for development right now. Everything's spreading out into Amber and Riverton and Summit Townships, which is definitely a lot lower
And the- yeah.
cost.
So if you could do that, reach out to, or look at that
Yeah, we
and
can-
see where they are compared to us. So,
Appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you, Mark.
thank you, Roger. Marlene?
Nothing.
Pam?
He said $25, right?
Kelly? I just have 4 or 5 different things, so it won't take more than 30.
4 or 5.
Yeah. I've been writing them down,
Oh, yeah.
Raj, don't worry. I just want to, update people on 294 12th, the storage units. They now have lighting and fencing up.
All around?
So, yep, so it should make a certain resident happy.
Yeah, but the
Maybe.
gate is still wide open.
No, it's not. It's
Oh, is it?
closed.
'Cause the last
It's
time
closed.
I went by, it was
You're
open.
in bed at that time.
I've been by it 3 times, the gate was closed.
Okay,
So let's go out tonight till midnight, Marlene. All right.
they're going by.
Lights are on, I head for work in the morning at 6.
Yep.
Yeah, well, security lights is what they are.
And the fencing looks nice, lights are nice, so.
It's like they're
They've been
installing
doing,
the same order they did in London, as they build buildings, they put more fence down.
so they've been doing a little excavating work, probably getting ready for stage, whatever. Temporary structures in town, we talked a little bit about that the other day. That there's a few popping up here and there. So, we can take a look at that. Those little pop-up storage, little garage canvas type things, so that are not allowed in the city.
I've seen it.
Rail relocation, is that plan gonna be on the county website for everybody
The
to look
rail
at?
relocation?
Yep,
Yes, it will be. I'm gonna, the copy that you saw right there was sent for printing document because those sideways pages are 11 by 17, so they fit in an accordion fold in. So let me adjust it, rotate those, resave it so I can put it in a web format so you can scroll through and then everything will be vertical.
all right.
Got it?
So if anybody wants a copy, you can just contact?
Yes.
Okay, I would like one, to have one, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
Yeah, I mean,
everybody
it's,
here?
it's, we want to provide as many of those as possible, and to be honest with you, in hard copy form as well, because it views much better on glossy paper with the full-size maps. It looks very nice, and that's, all it is a tool to try to continue to push this forward. It's going out to elected officials of both the House and the Senate. Jack O'Malley is the head of the Transportation Committee for the state of Michigan now, and that is our district. So we have a little more clout in terms of trying to obtain funding to do this. And so it sounds to me, in terms of what I've heard from both Jeff Dons and Thad Taylor, that there is more momentum right now and interest than there has been in the past, and they want to try to keep that momentum moving forward. So that's, we basically prepared it for that reason, to try to kind of lobby for this.
Okay, cool, good. It's much needed and long overdue. I just want to say congratulations to Marlene and Bob on their reappointments to the Planning Commission. Congratulations. And thank the other 3 applicants that put in for the Planning Commission. And last but not least is county planning meeting that we talked about earlier, maybe earlier this year.
Yeah, joint meeting.
Joint meetings. You know, are we anywhere with that?
We will, we just, we haven't had the opportunity to do it with all the work that's been coming down the pipeline. I mean, we've been spreading you guys pretty thin at meetings and having multiple work sessions for special use permits, so we want to get that marijuana phase behind us. And then, if you want to approach that this winter, it may be, you know, we're talking about a joint meeting of city agencies, boards, councils, so forth, to discuss redevelopment ready sites. But we would also like to have a joint meeting to discuss the housing. And so maybe we have just a joint work session, bring together Manistee Township, Filer Township, you can invite the Village of Eastlake, obviously City Planning Commission, invite the County Planning Commission, and have a range of topics that we can talk about, but housing would be one of them that would be, should be predominant on the list. Because that's affecting the entire area.
Okay. Now,
There's a lot of
Stronach-
jobs out there, employment is extremely low. There's a reason that no one's filling all these jobs, we don't have people here to fill them, a lot of it is.
Now,
I
is
believe.
Stronach part of Filer Township, or is that?
Yeah, no, we can bring Stronach in too, but I'll be honest with you, if we bring the County Planning Commission, you're gonna have 3 members of Stronach right there.
Okay, all right,
So,
all right.
We're gonna leave Stronach out.
Well, heck, that's it for me. So, I want to thank everybody in the audience that stayed for this long meeting tonight. Thanks staff for all their work, and the commissioners. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, second.
Second.
Thank you.
Say aye.
Thank you.